everybody, and welcome to another salad. Let's have a little song, shall we, to get us in the mood? 1, 2, 3, oh, welcome to the salad. Thanks for listening today. I really have a lot of things that I would like to say. It's a fun, informative radio show featuring lots of things you really want to know. So it's time to get on with the show. Yeah, it's time to get on with the show. Yeah, it's time to get on with the show. So let's go. Yeah, you're listening to The Salad. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Salad. Now then, what do we have for you on the program today? Well, let's begin with our conundrum, our customary conundrum. What is that, you're thinking? Well, it's a little test. We shall put you to the test. And today, this is our test. You have to fill in the blank. Rellenar espacio en blanco. And our conundrum today is, we can't work blank. What the problem is? We can't work blank. What the problem is? What do you think, salad listeners? Well, stay tuned. To the end of the program, and we shall give you the answer to that one. In the meantime, I'm going to put it up on our Vaughan Radio app. If you don't have the app, you can download it for free. That's right. Okay, you should see that now if you have the app. So, we can't work blank. What the problem is? We shall reveal the answer at the end of the program. So stay tuned. Now, what do we have on the program for you today? Well, let's find out, shall we? Of course, we have salad news bits. News from around the world. Where will we be going today? We shall be going far afield today, far away, for a news item. So stay tuned for that. And what else do we have? We also have funky phrasal verbs on the program today. Yes, we shall be having a look at a couple of phrasal verbs with the help of Alan Parsons, our grammar expert, who will be here with another masterclass today in phrasal verbs. So right now, salad listeners, it's time for Salad News Bits. Now then, here's our headline for today, titular headline. Are you ready? It's coming up right now. NZ Seniors Group hits back at elderly driver plates. Now, when I say NZ, I'm referring to New Zealand, of course, NZ. So NZ Seniors Group hits back at elderly driver plates. Now, what does this mean? Well, stay with us for a moment, okay? We're going over live right now, yes, to New Zealand. Yes, let's have a look. That's right, Graham Bruce, our Australasian correspondent, is waiting for us right now. Graham, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Dave, g'day mate, yeah, I can hear you. Loud and clear, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please tell us more about this headline.
Yeah, right, mate. Well, it's right what you said. NZ Seniors Group hits back at elderly drivers' plates. Well, what I'm talking about here, mate, is a New Zealand lobby group for senior citizens has criticised the company for selling special plates for cars, telling road users that the driver is elderly.
I see. Did you catch that, salad listeners? So a New Zealand lobby group or a pressure group for senior citizens has criticised the company for selling special plates for cars, telling road users that the driver is elderly. I see. Please tell us more, Graham.
Yeah, right, Dave. Well, the so-called E-plates or elderly plates are being sold by Auckland-based company Safe Grannies as a weapon against road rage.
I see. So these E-plates, the little sign you put up in your car, now they're being sold by the company called Safe Grannies as a weapon, arma, a weapon against road rage. La rabia callejera, road rage. I see. So you can put elderly person aboard or elderly driver so, everyone else can slow down a little bit and not drive too fast because they know there's an elderly person driving. But this is not the end of the story here, is it, Graham?
No, Dave, that's right. Well, a large percentage of road rage could be removed if drivers were aware what was in front of them. That's what the company founder, Nick Control, says, pointing out that the signs have similar intentions to baby on board signs used by parents in encouraging other drivers to slow down.
Now, it's true, you'll see a lot of people with a little sign in the back of their car, a little yellow sign saying, baby on board. And of course, if that's the case, you tend to slow down a little bit because there's a baby in the car. So the idea is the same. It says elderly driver. So somebody is elderly when we say that. They're, normally elderly, you could be a pensioner. Okay, an elderly person is driving, so you would tend to slow down a little bit. Or be aware, ser consciente. Be aware who the driver is in front of you, so you don't suffer from road rage. La rabia callejera.
Yeah, that's right, mate. But the Grey Power Lobby Group for over 50s says that the $12 signs are ageist. And I spoke to its president today, who says that he suspects they will do nothing for the conduct of the idiots on the road.
I see. So there's also another lobby group or a pressure group called Grey Power. Okay, for over 50 drivers, if you're over 50, and he says they're ageist, these signs, ageist. So they're not favouring elderly people driving cars. Not that I would call someone over 50 elderly. This is the thing, you see. So he also says it will do nothing for the conduct of idiots on the road if they know the driver is elderly. Please tell us more.
Yeah, that's right, mate. I've got no problem if someone wants to, put one on their car, but I don't believe it would help in terms of safety.
Now, that's the big issue. Will these elderly driver plates mean the roads are safer, or it's safer for everyone else involved? Or are they ageist? Well, what do you think, Salad listeners? Are they ageist? That's the big question here. Please tell us more, Graham.
Right, mate. So, yeah, Mr. Carroll, who's the spokesman here, however, said that, his plates, he's the founder of the company who makes the plates. He says that his plates have received widespread support from the local elderly community and claims that senior citizens are safer drivers than young men. And I quote Mr. Carroll, what he says is, older drivers are actually the ones sticking to the speed limit. And in Auckland, that's not fast enough for other drivers.
Well, it's true. I think people tend to know that older drivers are safer drivers because they stick to the speed limit. So tenir-se-á, to stick to. They tend to stick to the speed limit. And of course, if you're a younger driver, you want to go faster. So, older drivers are safer anyway.
Yeah, that's right, mate. His claim is backed up by Insurance Brokers Association of New Zealand, who said that 18 to 25-year-old men are the highest risk of drivers. Now, the chief executive of this group, the Insurance Brokers Association of New Zealand, said that, at that time, young males under 25 are diabolical drivers and tend to have the most accidents.
Now, the statistics say young men under 25 are diabolical drivers, he says, and tend to have the most accidents here. Well, that's what the statistics say.
Yeah, that's right. He also said they think they're bulletproof, especially, those that they've got their driving licence and are not just learning how to drive. So, that's the big debate here in New Zealand. So the New Zealand senior group hits back at elderly driver plates, saying they're ageist, and they doubt whether they will actually do anything to help road safety. So, here from Auckland, New Zealand, back to the studio, mate.
So there you have it, Salad listeners. What do you think? Elderly drivers, put a little plate in the back of your car if you're over 50. Is that a good idea or not? Or is it ageist? You heard it here on Salad News Bits. Funky phrasal verbs. Now then, yes, welcome to Funky Phrasal Verbs, the part of the program when we look at some phrasal verbs, of course. Now we do this with our resident grammar expert, Alan Parsons. He'll be right here helping us with our phrasal verbs. Yes, so hello, Alan.
Yes, hello, Dave. It's great to be on the program today. Yeah.
Now then, you have a couple of phrasal verbs for us today, don't you?
Yes, that's right. I certainly do.
Now, can you please tell us what they are?
Yes, right. Well, they both work with the verb to take. And the first one is to take over from someone and to take up.
Now then, Salad listeners, do those sound familiar? So to take over, in brackets, from someone, and to take up. What do you think? Have you heard these before? I think you may have. Now, you may have them in your passive English. The idea is to get them into your active English. So, let's have a look. First of all, to take over or to take over from someone, what does it mean, Alan?
Right, okay, so it means encargarse de, reemplazar a alguien o tomar.
I see. So to take over or to take over from someone. Encargarse de, reemplazar a alguien o tomar. Okay, Salad listeners, is that clear? I hope so. Now we also have to take up. What does it mean?
Right, okay, so to take up, ocupar tiempo o espacio.
To take up, ocupar tiempo o espacio. So I can say here in the Vaughan Radio Studios, this table takes up most of the studio. Ocupa. It takes up most of the studio. My kids, they take up most of my time, I can say. Good. So there we have it. To take over from someone, encargarse de, reemplazar a alguien, tomar. To take up, ocupar tiempo o espacio. These are your funky phrasal verbs. Now then, yes, let's have a look at our first example. So this is the interactive part of the program, Salad listeners. So interact with us here. Okay, we're going to give you some examples in Spanish. Let's translate them into perfect English. Using to take over, okay, or to take up. Okay, so say these loud and proud wherever you may be. Let's have our first example, please, Alan.
Right, okay. No dejes tu maleta ahí. Está ocupando todo el rincón.
What do you think, Salad listeners? So, no dejes tu maleta ahí. I would say don't leave. Don't leave your suitcase there. Está ocupando todo el rincón. So, it's taking up the whole corner, okay? So don't leave your suitcase there. It's taking up the whole corner. So ocupar, to take up, tiempo o espacio. Okay, your suitcase is taking up the whole corner. Okay, are you translating these, salad listeners? I hope so. Let's have a look at another example, please.
Right, okay, the next one. Los MP3 han sustituido por completo a los Walkman.
Los MP3. So I would say MP3s and sustituido. Or reemplazar, we saw, to take over. So in this case, to take over from. So MP3 players, I would say, have taken over from Walkmans. That's right. Now then, but it's por completo. How could we say that? What do you think? So we can say MP3 players have completely taken over from Walkmans. That's pretty cool, salad listeners. Okay, so to take up, to take over. Funky phrasal verbs. Now then, we're warming up here, calientándonos. So let's have another example, please.
Right, okay, the next example here. ¿Qué es lo que más tiempo te ocupa en el trabajo?
What do you think, salad listeners? Translate that one into perfect English. ¿Qué es? I would just say ¿qué? So what takes up most of your time en el trabajo? How can we say that? At work, not in, you could say in the workplace, but in general, el trabajo, at work. So what takes up most of your time at work? Did anyone say what does take up? Because in this case, we don't need the auxiliary verb. That's right. Because the what here is referring to the subject. So, what takes up most of your time at work? Okay, to take up, ocupar tiempo o espacio. So let's have another example, salad listeners. Next.
Right, okay. Ella se hará cargo del negocio cuando lo deje su padre.
Encargarse de. We know that's to take over or to take over from someone. So, she'll take over from her father. What do you think? We can just say like that. What was it? Cuando lo deje su padre. Now, how about this? Because it's el negocio. She'll take over the business from her father. We don't have to say, when he lets her. I mean, we could add that at the end, but we don't need that, okay? Because it's encargarse de, reemplazar a alguien, okay? So we could say, she'll take over the business from her father. That's right, salad listeners. Excellent stuff here. Let's have another example.
Right, okay. El papeleo innecesario ocupa demasiado de mi tiempo en el trabajo.
I see. Did everybody get that? El papeleo. Innecesario. Now, we could say unnecessary. Or something you don't need, we could say needless. You don't need it, it's needless. So we could say needless paperwork takes up too much of my time en el trabajo, at work. That's right. So, needless paperwork takes up too much of my time at work. That's right, salad listeners. Okay, let's have another one.
Right, okay, next we have mientras estoy de vacaciones. Yes, señorita Johnson me sustituirá.
La señorita Johnson. So, mientras, how can we say that? Just while. While I'm on holiday, Miss Johnson will take over. Very easy. Okay, so while I'm on holiday, Miss Johnson will take over. Funky phrasal verbs. Excellent stuff. So I think we're getting the hang of this. We're getting used to it. And we're certainly warmed up now. So let's have a look. We're finishing off. Let's have another example.
Right, okay. Toma casi tanto tiempo eliminar el spam como leer más correos normales.
Más correos normales or mis correos normales? So it takes up almost as much of my time eliminating spam as it does reading my normal email. That's pretty high level, salad listeners. High level! High level! So in this case, it takes up almost as much of my time eliminating spam as it does reading my normal emails. Okay, not mails, emails, we say in English. It's pretty high level. Well, these are phrasal verbs. What did you expect? Okay, another example, please.
Right, okay, yes, here we go. ¿Te has enterado de quién piensa adquirir nuestra empresa?
En this case, tomar, encargarse de, etc. So, ¿te has enterado? You could say, enterarse, to find out, or to hear about something. Have you heard who is planning, quien piensa, to take over our company? Have you heard who is planning to take over our company? Pretty high level, salad listeners. High level! That's right. Okay, so to take over someone's company can take over a company also. Okay, another example, please.
Right, okay, next example here. Está muy absorto en el trabajo.
Absorto. Well, he's very taken up with his work. Está muy ocupado con su trabajo. He's very taken up with his work. So to be taken up with something, he's very taken up with his work. Okay, let's keep going here.
Right, okay. ¿Me podrías cubrir mientras voy a comer?
Cubrir. Well, reemplazar a alguien. So this could be just a short term at lunchtime, for example. So we could say, could you take over while I'm at lunch? Or could you take over from me while I'm at lunch? Something like that. I would just say, could you take over while I'm at lunch? Oh, thanks very much. I'll be back in 45 minutes. 2 hours or whatever. Okay, salad listeners. So to take over, we're looking at to take over from someone, encargarse de, reemplazar a alguien, tomar, and to take up, ocupar tiempo o espacio. Okay, let's have a look at the last examples here.
Right, okay. No podemos comprar esta mesa. Ocupará demasiado espacio.
Ah, I see. So, easy. We can't buy this table. It will... Well, the contraction, we can say it'll. Like ital. It'll. We can't buy this table. It'll take up too much space. And finally, the last one.
¿Puedes hacerte con el volante un segundo mientras me quito el jersey?
Ah, so can you take over the wheel, we say, la rueda, while I take off my jumper? Me quito el jersey. So, can you take over the wheel a second while I take off my jumper? That's right. So we've seen to take over from someone, encargarse de, reemplazar a alguien, tomar, or to take up, ocupar tiempo o espacio. Thanks very much, Alan. These have been Funky Phrasal Verbs.
Laura, ¿crees que tienes una actitud comprometida con el inglés? Pues yo creo que no. Yo creo que eres una escuchona. Te encanta escuchar a Richard Vaughan machacar a sus alumnos, a ver sudar a los demás. Pero tú no te atreves a exponerte a semejante batería constante de preguntas. Tú no te atreves a medirte con un profesor tan exigente. No, tú prefieres arrinconarte en tu zona de confort, a salvo de las exigencias de un profesor Vaughan. ¿Verdad? ¿O me equivoco? Si de verdad eres una valiente, ponte a prueba con nosotros.
Llámanos al 911335833 y nuestros compañeros te informarán de la solución Vaughan que mejor se adapte a tus objetivos y a tu bolsillo. Y no te preocupes, hablan español.
Vicente está triste, asustado y tenso. Su aplomo de siempre va en claro descenso. Su costumbre de mandar en sus fueros internos se ha hecho añicos en estos lares externos. El motivo de su mal de su angustia vital, es algo de importancia, para él, capital. Representar a España en un encuentro tan clave y no cazaronda es de verdad muy grave. Vicente dirige la asociación nacional que vela por que todo sea claro y racional en las múltiples firmas que componen el sector, racionalizando a la vez el aparato productor. Es experto en lo suyo y concede entrevistas a políticos y periodistas, populares y progresistas. Su sector es tan clave y su voz tan buscada que nunca hasta ahora se ha parado ante nada. Pero ahora su aspecto, de estampa importante, se encuentra achicado, nervioso, vacilante. Mañana le toca otro día repleto de reuniones en inglés con el foro completo. Son solo 15 hombres. 15 hombres expertos que, al igual que Vicente, necesitan conciertos con la Comisión de Bruselas que publica directivas que afectan al sector y a sus buenas perspectivas. Pero todos los 15, incluido el italiano, se expresan en inglés como si fuera cristiano. Y Vicente se ve obligado a aguantar 12 horas al día a punto de reventar. Gotitas de sudor se le forman en la frente, escuchando a sus colegas con calma aparente. Su poco inglés le anula por completo, como si fuera un fenómeno de lo más obsoleto.
I've run into a lot of cases like Vicente, lots of cases, where an expert's aplomb and self-assurance is undermined by uncertainty and self-doubt. All because of a sketchy or flawed command of English. Being an accomplished authority on something is worth next to nothing if you don't exhibit proper command of the language at hand. And it all starts with the ear. Deaf mutes aren't mute. Any doctor will tell you that their vocal cords are in perfect condition. But because they can't hear, they can't speak, and the same thing can be applied to languages. If you can't follow the cross currents of discussion that define an important meeting, then basically you're as disabled as a deaf mute.
¿Entendiste a Richard? ¿No? No seas otro Vicente. Da el paso. Ven a vernos. Nosotros encontraremos la mejor solución para ti. Infórmate en el 91-133-5833 o entra en grupobaugan.com.
Antonio, you listen to Vaughn Radio every day. You see how our teachers correct every mistake our students make. But who's correcting you? Does your English teacher correct every single mistake you make? If they don't, you need a Vaughn teacher. And you need one now.
Llámanos al 91-133-5833 y nuestros compañeros te informarán de la solución Vaughan que mejor se adapte a tus objetivos y a tu bolsillo. Y no te preocupes, hablan español.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Western Civilization, from Mesopotamia to Silicon Valley. I'm your host. My name is Guy Williams, and on this program, I'm going to be speaking about what was happening in the Kingdom of Asturias during the time of Ordoño I, Ordoño I, that was from 850 to 866, tragically short. And then, after that, Alfonso III, el Magno, right, the Great, Alfonso the Great of Asturias, the last Asturias king, who was there from 866 to 910. So yes, a very, very long reign, and a very productive reign. The reign, well, it represented the culmination of everything that Asturias represented. Now, just to put you into context, in the middle of the 9th century, we have, well, Viking raids, we have down in Cordoba, all of those problems with Eulogius, son Eulogio, trying to send all kinds of people to become martyrs, because the Christians, he doesn't want the Christians to become too Arabized, right? The Arabization and the Orientalization of the citizens of Cordoba is, well, it's a resounding success. Cordoba has become something unrecognizable, really, because of this imitation. I spoke on last week's program about Ziryab, about how he arrived from Baghdad, the cultural center of the Islamic world, and maybe the cultural center of the entire world at that time. This was the time of Harun al-Rashid, the time of the 1001 Arabian Nights. If you've never read those stories, I strongly, strongly recommend that you read those stories. It contains Aladdin, it contains Sinbad, all of these composed in Baghdad at that time. Baghdad, capital of music, culinary capital of the world. And everything that Baghdad had, Cordoba is imitating. And this is far too attractive for the Mozárabes, the Christian subjects living in Cordoba, and Eulogio wanted to cause problems, wanted to, he urged other people to become martyrs, young people, vulnerable people. He himself, no, he just wanted to recommend martyrdom to other people. In the end, Eulogius was killed himself, but not before, 48 other people had gone to their deaths because of him. In any case, you also have the beginning of the motín, sublevación, of the uprising of Omar ben Hafsun, who was going to control the mountainous areas in Cordoba. So, as you say in Spanish, le crecen los enanos, right? His dwarves are growing on him. We don't say that in English, and don't ever say that in English, because we don't have the same sense of humor that you do, and it would sound offensive. But in any case, his dwarves are growing on him. Remember that toward the end of the time in Cordoba of Abdurrahman II, his favorite concubine wanted her son to take over. He wanted his son Mohammed to take over. She wanted Abdullah to take over after he died, and she decided to kill him. She got his most trusted eunuch, a man named Nars, to give him poison. But the plot was revealed. The conspiracy was revealed. Somebody went public, came forward with the information, and Abdurrahman ordered Naz to drink the poison. And that was the end of the problem. We don't know what happened to Tarub. We don't really know what happened to Abdallah after that. But we do know that Muhammad I took over. And as soon as he took over, what he wanted to do was go north and cause problems. Athefas, they're called. These raids, these incursions, these attacks on the north, called Athefas. At the same time, the Toledo was rising up against Cordoba, asked for help. Ordoño went to help in Toledo. The Toledans, they went south. They took Calatrava. They took the normal route through the Sierra Morena to get to the north. At the time, Despeñaperros, nobody went there. At the time, it was through Calatrava. That's why the castle is there, to protect the mountain pass. Well, they took that mountain pass. And when Muhammad I sent an expedition to punish them, they crossed the Sierra Morena and destroyed that expedition practically at the gates of Cordoba as soon as it had left. So yes, serious problems for Cordoba. Now, if you remember, in Asturias at this time, since the time of Alfonso II, the Asturians had been accustomed to thinking of themselves as como neogothos, right? Neo-Visigoths. All of the ceremonies, all of the aula regia, all of the rites, customs, all of those were recreated or invented in Oviedo. Oviedo was going to become the new Toledo. All of the customs except one. Except one. The custom, the very, very important Visigothic custom, that a king has to be designated by proclamation from a committee, that you have to have a series of important families represented in that committee and the ecclesiastical authorities as well in that committee, and that they decide who's going to be the next king. It doesn't have to be a member of the royal family. That was the way during Visigothic times, and that was the way until Ordoño I. All of this push to recreate Visigothic life in Oviedo, all of it was didn't go as far as replicating this committee. So yes, Ramiro I said that his son, Ordoño, was going to be king. And that from now on, it was going to be dynastic, father to son, that they were going to give up that aspect of Visigothic law. This is, of course, an incredibly unpopular decision, and almost immediately, Ordoño has problems. They say that Ordoño was very serious. They say that he was easygoing, affable, no? They say that he was modest, not arrogant, not pretentious, that he was modest. Now, as a kind of, prelude, you could call it that, as a kind of a prelude to what will be happening in the future, he married a Basque. He married Doña Muña, and they had children. They had a series of children. This idea of looking across, the valley of the Ebro, looking to the other side, looking toward Pamplona, looking toward the Pyrenees, this was going to be pretty constant in the next couple of days or generations. The only problem was going to be to break up this relationship, this extremely close relationship, family relationship between the Muslim leaders, the Muladíes, right? These converted Visigoths or Hispano-Romans, but converted to Islam, los hijos de Casio, the Banu Qasim, to break up that relationship between the Banu Qasim and the Iñiguez, the leaders of the rulers of Pamplona, who had been exchanging their children, who had been for generations. They had been very, very close to each other. Christian, Muslim, didn't make a difference. They were the same family. It was going to be necessary to break them up somehow. And that came along in the form of a castle there was a series of things, and different historians would like to put their finger on one cause, one principal cause. One of the causes could have been the fact that the heir, the son, Fortun, the crown prince, the one who was supposed to take over as king, Córdoba captured him. They took him as a prisoner to the south, and he was there year after year. He was there for 20 years living as a guest in Córdoba. And that caused a kind of a power vacuum. There was a regency, of course, but nobody really knew what to do in his absence. Now, at one point, the Vikings also came, and we don't know how they came. We don't know where they kidnapped the king, and whether the Banu Qasim tried to stop the Vikings. It's possible that the Vikings, on their draker, their dragon ships, they called them draker, on these dragon ships, these long boats, it's possible that they were able to sail up the Ebro, up the Aragon River, up the Arga River. They were able to get all the way to Pamplona by boat. That it's possible that most of that, or all of that, was navigable at the time. It would have been very surprising, but potentially, we don't know. In any case, the Banu Qasim evidently didn't do enough to stop the Vikings. They didn't do enough to stop Córdoba from taking Fortun. They didn't do enough to stop the Vikings from attacking Pamplona. They just they weren't there when Pamplona needed them. In addition to which, they put a lot of time and energy into building a castle right in the middle of what is today La Rioja, the castle of Albelda, which pretty much controlled that part, the strategic part of the Ebro River. And so, the kings of Pamplona were the whole idea of this pact, the whole idea of this this connection between the Banu Qasim and the Iñiguez, all of that was waiting for some way to break it up. That was going to be one of the strategic priorities of the kingdom of Asturias, was to break up this connection. Now, one of the priorities in terms of repopulation, one of the priorities was going to be Castile. And Rodrigo, the first count of Castile, was named. His descendant, by the way, this was going to be very, very, very nice privilege to be able to have a dynasty. So the first counts of Castile, they know that they will inherit, their children will inherit the title. This will go to the Infantes de Lara. This will go down in history, and it's a source of pride. And so Castile becomes a big thing at this time. And remember, because it is kind of no man's land, that it's going to be different. With Castile, you have small holders, you have farmers pretty much in charge. This is not Galicia. You cannot introduce a feudal system. This is the people who settle there, the people who establish themselves there, they have property rights. They can inherit their property. They can sell their property. This is not true in other places in Europe at this time. You're going to have institutions in Castile where they can accept or reject the person who will be their lord. right? El señor feudal. They can actually, beatría it's called, they can say no. And of course, this was unbelievably liberal and unique, eccentric at this time. Well, Ordoño, in order to consolidate this relationship with Pamplona, his daughter marries the prince of Pamplona, and this solidifies that relationship. Now, in the end, there was an attack. In the end, Muhammad did come from the south and attack down where, through Pancorbo. Remember that if you want to go from Castile down into the valley, Miranda del Ebro, that area, incredibly fertile territory. And from there, of course, you have access to what is today La Rioja. That whole area. Well, there was a pass there called Morcuera. This is not the Morcuera in Rascafria. This is another pass called Morcuera next to Aro in La Rioja. It connects Aranda de Duero with that valley. And in this battle, Ordoño dies. It's a disaster without precedent. At least 25,000 soldiers, combined soldiers from different areas, at least 25,000 of them, Christians, died in this battle. There was an army of 50,000 sent from Cordoba to attack. And yeah, in the end, they built towers of heads and began to dance around the heads in order to symbolize this attack against the enemy. Morcuera, as I say, a disaster without precedent. And in that battle, Ordoño died. Now, Alfonso III, his son, took over at this point. One of the chronicles says that he was only 14 years old when he took over. Others that he was 18, but all of them go on to say that he was in the flower of his life, that this was a wonderful time for him. He is remembered as a strategist, as a great warrior, as educated, highly educated. There were chronicles written. He ordered chronicles to be written in his time, and he is supposed to be the author of one of those chronicles. So he is a propagandist as well. His purpose in all of this is to explain to his people what their mission is. And their mission, this was his great-grandfather, his great-grandfather, Alfonso II, originally brought this mission forward. The mission is to recreate the Visigothic kingdom, to recapture the Visigothic kingdom, that they have a right to the Visigothic kingdom. You have here what is going to be remembered as the mentality of the Reconquista. Now, just like in other times, it was prominent in people's minds at some points in time and then simply forgotten. in others. We will see that as soon as Alfonso III is out of the picture, any idea of a reconquista is put on the back burner. It's put in storage. It is not a priority anymore. But he is the one that really brought it to people's mind with his chronicles. Now, because he was named in this kind of a dynastic idea, a very un-Visigothic way to do things, his brother, Freula, rose up against him. And Freula had the support of most of Galicia at this point. So as soon as he came into power, Alfonso really just had to abandon Oviedo, leave it to his brother, seek refuge in Castile, and come back, re-attack, and kick out his brother when the time was right. This was temporary. Evidently, Freula had promised too many people too many things. He was overextended, and people really didn't like him as much as they liked Alfonso. So yes, Freula was out. Alfonso was in. At about this time, an early victory, he conquered Nájera. Nájera in what is today Pamplona, extending his power this far. That, at least symbolically, that was an incredible victory. It meant that victory was possible, that expansion began to look almost inevitable. Now, he's going to be very, very busy in the West, in Oporto, in Coimbra, repopulating that area with Gallegos. People from Galicia are going to be the new citizens, or the new residents rather, of what will be Portugal in the future. And all of this is possible because he has a shield, right? Un escudo. A shield in the form of a rebel in Mérida. Mérida is causing so many problems for Córdoba, that Córdoba is going to have to move against Mérida. They can't do anything about these incursions. They can't do anything about Asturian expansion, an enormous expansion into Portugal. The West is vulnerable. And again, he is becoming very, very good at this. He connects, of course, with the rebel, Ibn Marwan, who evidently was from a Gallego family. All right, I have to take a break now. Sorry. I'll be back in just a couple of minutes with the second part of the program.
Hola, queridos oyentes. Quería hablaros un poco de los cursos intensivos en grupos reducidos que tenemos 1 o 2 veces a la semana, porque, bueno, yo me acuerdo cuando empecé a dar clases en Vaughan ahí por el 2006 y me acuerdo de la dinámica que hemos tenido en esos cursos. Eran, pues eso, grupos reducidos de 5 o 6 personas y, claro, al principio nadie ni sabía inglés ni conocía a sus compañeros, y a lo largo de esos 3 meses que dura ese trimestral, pues se ha formado un grupo realmente bonito. Se han formado amistades, la gente aprendía muchísimo y era una manera muy divertida y muy amena de pasar las tardes, pues eso, 2 veces o 3 veces a la semana. Entonces os animo mucho a apuntaros a esos cursos intensivos o trimestrales que tenemos, y si queréis, pues llamadnos para más información al 91 133 5833. Laura, ¿crees que tienes una actitud comprometida con el inglés? Pues yo creo que no. Yo creo que eres una escuchona. Te encanta escuchar a Richard Vaughan machacar a sus alumnos, a ver sudar a los demás. Pero tú no te atreves a exponerte a semejante batería constante de preguntas. Tú no te atreves a medirte con un profesor tan exigente. No, tú prefieres arrinconarte en tu zona de confort, a salvo de las exigencias de un profesor Vaughan, ¿verdad? ¿O me equivoco? Si de verdad eres una valiente, ponte a prueba con nosotros.
Llámanos al 911335833 y nuestros compañeros te informarán de la solución Vaughan que mejor se adapte a tus objetivos y a tu bolsillo. Y no te preocupes, hablan español.
If you're looking for your first Vaughan classroom experience, maybe you're a radio listener but you haven't had a class yet, I would strongly recommend the intensives, the trimestrales, the 3-month intensive courses here at Vaughan. These are small groups, so bring your friends, bring your family, hey, bring your neighbor, whoever you want, bring them along, give us a call, and you can set up a group. We will do free level testing and put you in a group ideal to maximize your learning experience. Give us a call about intensive courses here in Vaughan, 91133-5833. That's right. For more information, 91133-5833. You can also find more at grupovaughan.com. I often recommend to our radio listeners who are looking for their first Vaughan classroom experience, I often recommend the intensive courses, the 3-month trimestrales, the 3-month intensive courses here at Vaughan. These are in small groups. So give us a call to find out more information about when classes are started. And be sure to invite your friends, maybe your neighbor, your family, your brother, your sister, whoever wants to get serious about your English. Now's the time. Give us a call, 91133-5833. Or, of course, you can get more information at grupovaughan.com.
En el Vaughan Camp del Atlético de Madrid, tus hijos se sentirán parte de la familia atlética mientras mejoran su nivel de inglés. Un campamento único en el que los niños trabajarán junto a monitores nativos y el equipo técnico del Atlético de Madrid. Vivirán una experiencia inolvidable en inglés y tendrán esa oportunidad que tú no tuviste. Llámanos al 911335832 o entra en grupovaughan.com.
Empower your English. Empower yourself.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Western Civilization, from Mesopotamia to Silicon Valley. Now, on the first part of the program, I was speaking about what was happening in the Kingdom of Asturias at this time, during the second part of the 9th century and the beginning of the 10th century. And the different kings, Ramiro, Ordoño, and right now, Alfonso III, Alfonso III, Magno, the Great, Alfonso the Great of Asturias, the last Asturian king. His son is going to leave Asturias, and Asturias will never be the same again, unfortunately, but leave Asturias and set himself up in León. After that, you have to talk about the kingdom of León. Well, at this time, as I say, there was he was able to expand incredibly in Portugal, precisely because there was an uprising, sublevación, there was an uprising in Mérida. And Córdoba was so worried about Mérida, so worried about what to do about Ibn Marwan, a Galiki, Gallego, that's what they call it, Galiki, that there was, it was inevitable there were going to be problems. And going to be luck. Because in addition to, I didn't mention this, but in addition to being a warrior and a strategist and an educated man and a writer, a propagandist, Alfonso was also lucky. He was clever and he was lucky. And in Ibn Marwan, he found the right ally. Evidently, Cordoba, for a long time, they had not trusted Ibn Marwan. And they had sent the vizier, the prime minister, let's put him that way, the head of the cabinet, a man named Hasim. They had sent him to keep an eye on Ibn Marwan. This man, Hasim, had a very, very short temper. Tenía sus prontos, right? He had an extremely short temper, and he was there during the revolt. Evidently, he was arrogant, and he hit Ibn Marwan in public and said the famous line, "A dog is worth more than you." And of course, that is completely unforgivable. Ibn Marwan has to be seen to be to respond to this decisively, immediately, or he will lose his authority as a leader, and especially as a rebel leader. And so he moves very quickly and kidnaps Hasim. And Hasim is now his prisoner. But of course, this is much too dangerous. And naturally, Hasim is going to have a lot of friends in Merida, or at least people who would be interested in receiving a recompense, a reward, for the liberation of Hasim. So, Ibn Marwan sends Hasim up north to Oviedo as a guest, of Alfonso. And Alfonso demands a price, un rescate, a ransom of 100,000 dinar. Actually, in the chronicles, they call them solidi, which would have been the coin of Byzantium. It would have been the coin in Constantinople, the solidi. But we're probably talking about gold dinar, which was worth about the same. In any case, he demanded 100,000, which of course is exorbitant. And back in Cordoba, Mohammed I doesn't want anything to do with it. He had a reputation of being tacaño, stingy, very stingy, and of course this confirmed that reputation for everybody. Yeah, he didn't want anything to do with the rescate, with the ransom of his vizier, even though it made him look bad. So, in the end, Hasim had to invite all of his family to come to Oviedo to stay there in his place as hostages, rehenes, while he went back to Cordoba and tried to find a way to get all of that money himself. And in the end, he did. In the end, he was able to get together to raise, levantar o recaudar. He was able to raise the 100,000 dinars and give them to Alfonso. Now, Asturias had never had this kind of money before. Asturias was, their economy was not monetarized at this point. The normal way to deal with people was trueque, right? It was trade, it was barter. There wasn't that much money in the economy until now. which allowed Alfonso to go on all kinds of building projects, all kinds of special things, creation, especially religious. I mean, the fact is that Toledo is still the capital, the head of the Catholic Church in Spain. The archbishop is in Toledo. The metropole, the prelate, is in Toledo. And Asturias is battling with Toledo constantly, especially when the Archbishop Elipando came out with adoptionism. Well, Asturias simply turned its back on Toledo, but it's very difficult to make a definitive break when, at least theoretically, Toledo lleva el cotarro, right? When Toledo runs the show, Toledo is in charge. But of course, money can do a lot. And money can sort of create a parallel or a counterweight. And a lot of this money went to establishing the cathedral, the big cathedral in Santiago. Santiago de Compostela, now famous as a place of pilgrimage, peregrinaje, as a place of pilgrimage, and with a splendid, splendid cathedral. Of course, during the time of Almanzor, he burnt the cathedral down. It was reconstructed, but Almanzor destroyed Santiago. He took the bells of Santiago back with him to Córdoba and donated those bells to the mosque in Córdoba, where they were used as lamps. But, of course, after Fernando III, they were brought back. The captive Moors had to carry the bells back, physically carry them on their shoulders, all the way back to Santiago, where they were restored as bells in the new cathedral. In any case, this prototype, let's put it that way, the prototype of the Cathedral of Santiago, built with part of this money, part of the rescate, part of the ransom from Asim. Now, remember that Alfonso understands, he understands perfectly that as the Visigoths did from the time of Recaredo, that their legitimacy in power, their legitimacy as kings, comes to a great extent from the support they get from the church. And so that money spent on the Catholic Church is money well spent. This is the source of their legitimacy and the source of their ability to say no to Toledo. So, this is a time, of course, the cross is going to become emblematic. The cross is going to be the emblem of Asturias. And toward the end of his life, Alfonso III donated one of the most splendid crosses to the cathedral there. Again, Castile and the Counts of Castile, this was made hereditary. And Diego Rodríguez Porcelo became the Count of Castile, and very quickly after that, founded the city of Burgos. So this is about the time that Burgos is founded, about the time that the nucleus of what is going to be an entirely separate kingdom, what is going to be perhaps the most powerful kingdom in Spain, consolidated at this time. Now, battles. There were battles and there were truces as well. After a particular battle, the went very, very badly for the south, for Al-Andalus. Abdurrahman asked for a truce, tregua, a truce lasting for 3 years. This is something that had never happened before and actually was not going to happen again. But yes, they needed, Abdurrahman had so many problems in the south that it was going to be necessary for him to do something. And this truce allowed him to concentrate his forces, again, in the south. Now, at about this time, in Toledo, looking at what Alfonso was doing, you had a prophecy. And according to this prophecy, attributed to Ezekiel, to the prophet himself, Ezekiel. According to this prophecy, Alfonso was, in the end, eventually, he was going to be king of all of Spain. According to this prophecy, the Moors would leave and Alfonso was going to take over. The end of Muslim power was very, very close. It was imminent, according to this prophecy. And again, you can't ask for better propaganda than this. So he has this religious backing. We're going to see that in the end, you will also find that the whole thing gets more religiously charged. This is about the same time that Abdurrahman in Cordoba decides that he can call himself caliph, that he can turn his back on Baghdad, on the caliphate in Baghdad, and turn his back on the rival caliphate in North Africa, the Fatimids, and he can refer to himself as the caliph. Before this, all of his predecessors had called themselves emirs, in other words, subordinate to the caliph. Now he felt it was necessary to call himself caliph and protector of the faithful and all sorts of things, giving himself this religious, atmosphere, this religious prestige. But of course, making it much more important, making it much closer to a holy war, a jihad against the Christians. Again, this was becoming, on both sides, more and more religious. Now, the Chronicles, the Crónicas Alfonsíes, talking about his exploits, his hazañas, his deeds, the things he had done, the wonderful things he had done, and how Covadonga had been the ultimate transformation, how it was necessary, it was absolutely essential for Asturias to preserve the Visigoths. Everything that had been Visigoth was there, was intact in Asturias, and Asturias was the continuation of Visigothic power. So with this idea, of course, absolutely essential for the people to understand that they had a mission, a religious mission, the Reconquista. It was at this point that Alfonso sent ambassadors to the south to try and get the remains, los restos mortales, the remains of different saints. Eulogio, Leocritia, I've spoken about them on an earlier program. They're the ones who voluntarily became martyrs and tried to incite the Christians to rise up and become martyrs because Christians were becoming too comfortable in Córdoba. He also brought back the body of Pelagius. Pelagius had been taken in the battle of a few years earlier, in the Battle of Junquera, near Pamplona. And in that battle, he had been taken as a 10-year-old, brought to Córdoba. Evidently, he was so beautiful, by age 13, so beautiful that he was put in the harem, the male harem, because there was a male harem and a female harem. He was put in the male harem of Abdurrahman, and the boy would not allow Abdurrahman to have sexual contact with him. So he said no. And evidently he was killed for this, or at least this is the story. And he also refused to convert to Islam, so this is why he became a saint and a martyr, and somebody talked about. So yes, San Pelagio, his mortal remains brought back to Oviedo at this time. Now, one concession he did have to make was an agreement that what his grandfather and father had instituted, this dynastic succession, this Roman law, that was an arrogation of power, and that they would have to go back to the old way, to the neo-Visigothic way, to the traditional way of electing their own kings. So yes, everything that his father and grandfather had tried to work for, everything you trying to avoid the morbus cotorum, trying to avoid the fact that the Visigothic kings were ephemeral, that many of them were only in power for weeks or months before being killed. All of that, they wanted to undo it by making the whole thing dynastic. And they had it, but they had to give it up. And we will see that after Alfonso II dies, it's going to be chaos, real chaos. In the future, yes, this whole idea of succession will be increasingly chaotic. Meanwhile, speaking of religion, back in the South, you had somebody who went rogue completely. Rogue, by the way, from rogar. This is the origin of the word interrogate. Evidently, the word of arrogant as well, arrogante. Rogar, to beg, suplicar, mendicar. Evidently, that's the origin of the word rogue. A rogue is usually an animal who leaves the herd, leaves the pack of animals, right, la manada. He goes alone, usually male, and he becomes aggressive. Separated from the herd, he becomes aggressive, destructive, unpredictable. He is very large and very dangerous. And the way we use it in English, completely unscrupulous. So yes, we talk about a rogue agent of the CIA, a rogue agent, a rogue agency within the government, a rogue KGB program, something like this. Rogue, we use the word all the time, and there is no exact equivalent. Elemento descontrolado, quizás? Well, in any case, there is no exact equivalent in Spanish. But elephants are frequently, they go rogue, and they start destroying things. Now, a rogue element within the Muslims. He called himself, he declared a holy war, and he said that he was the Savior, El Salvador, that he was redemption, that he was the Mahdi. And he tried to get an army, mostly North African, mostly Berber, to go up and recapture part of the north, Zamora, Toro, and Simancas. Now, with this religious fervor, you got many elements who believed that their devotion would work better than solid military training. In any case, during this raid, you had 60,000 men in this army. During this raid, Alfonso was victorious. Many of the men began to desert, to run away, again, because they did not have military training. And finally, the leader decided to sacrifice himself, become a martyr, and rode on his horse straight into the enemy lines, straight toward the Christians, where he was killed. And his head put on the gates of Zamora. This was an enormous victory for the Christians. Unbelievable. This was everything that the Battle of Simancas was everything that the Battle of Covadonga really hadn't been. Simancas, it changed everything. It was un punto de inflexión. It was a turning point in Spanish history. And yeah, the fact is that afterwards, things were never the same again. So yes, by the way, Alfonso III, he recaptured Tordesillas, and he says, tomé Tordesillas de la gente barbárica. Now, if this is, historians love this kind of thing. It's an enigma. Who is he talking about? Because if these were Muslims, he would have said Muslims. It's gente barbárica. Okay, I've run out of time. Thank you for listening, and please listen to my next program.
En 3 meses puedes hacer muchas cosas. Puedes ahorrar para irte de viaje a Japón.
55, 56, 57... Alberto, ¿me dejas 23 céntimos para una caña?
O también puedes hacer un curso trimestral